ABC Action News. Now, your table is ready. Join 13 ABC's Jeff Smith with the decision makers of Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. This is the Roundtable.
And hi there, good Sunday afternoon to you. Thanks so much for spending part of your Sunday with us. We like to call this the best pregame show on TV on Sundays, but so glad to have with us after coming off of our election on the November election. So glad to have with us Dr. Romulus Durant, Interim Superintendent of Toledo Public Schools. Welcome to the Roundtable. Glad you could make some time for us.
It's a pleasure, and I thank you for having me.
Coming off a victory, the first victory that Toledo Public Schools has seen since 2008 in terms of getting voter support. How big is that?
That's huge. I think the one thing is that when you're talking about building a winning culture, you take your one win at a time. And these are the things that you build off of in regards to especially understanding that the community support had come out to support the district. And I think for the most part, just from the presentation and me being out in the community, people want to support the district. I think by generating a TPS proud concept and model allowed individuals to get behind, synergize, because we have a vast community of people who were TPS graduates. So getting that support, getting your wins one win at a time, that's how you go about developing winning cultures within a school district where everyone wants to be part of the winning team.
Almost like an athletic mindset as far as putting that game plan together. When you look at the victory and seeing it has been 5 years, this was put out there in the media. It's not new money.
Right.
This is a renewal. And it's been a long time since TPS has been able to get a new levy put out there. Right. But do you look at it more a victory for the schools? Do you look at it an acceptance of you and what you're trying to do?
I look at it as a victory for Toledo. I think one of the things here is I'm here to be part of the leadership here in Toledo to move Toledo forward. And the school district account for some of that. One of the things is that I think the victory, one of the things we're doing is becoming more data driven, more outcome based, is that looking at statistics as well as running survey pieces to say, likely voters, this is what they want to hear, and that's what we modeled our campaign after. At the same time, understanding that you have your senior citizens who are vast majority of voters. They are there at the polls. And when I began to recognize the disconnect we had between the school district and our senior centers as well as senior homes, I began to realize that we've lost out on a vast majority of support. So we developed with the Office Area of Aging, with Billy Johnson, developed a strategic plan throughout each year that allowed our senior citizens to be invested. One way I can tell you is that I grew up in Toledo knowing that there used to be malls in every area. That's where our seniors used to go during the cold season. Those malls are no longer around. You have Westfield, which is very highly populated. And so what we did was we opened up our high schools, and guess now where they're doing their walkings during the cold season. And we started it 2 weeks ago. I'll be the next week with some walking around. But it made them feel much invested.
The mall walkers have become hall walkers.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah. When you look at getting that message out and trying to convey to them, you may not have kids in school anymore. This is what we hear again and again in our school districts that are fighting for those levy dollars. But you hear, I don't have kids in the district anymore. I live here, but it's not important to me whether or not these pass. So how are you changing that mindset?
Well, what we did was we provided more opportunity just in exercise and health. We have what we call the Golden Apple Card, which we allow them free admission into all our athletic events, giving them opportunity to become part of the community in some of the high school events and et cetera. At the same time, we have a program right now, and we're working on the plans. It's going to be in May. It's called Senior Prom, which they will be able to relive their senior prom days, red carpet and all. We're going to do the culinary art program, going to feed them, bring them into the gymnasium, do their dance and everything. And one thing is going to be funny is the kids are going to be the chaperones. So it's an intergenerational interaction that definitely need to happen, as well as what we call senior buddies that are happening in our elementaries each and every day.
Is that something that's going to happen at each individual high school?
Well, right now we plan for one of the high schools in regard to Rogers, but we're hoping to expand that, and so we're working collectively to do that and get the interest base from them.
Interesting concept. Talk about the turnout, and that is something that's troubling, not only from the TPS perspective, but just from the standpoint. We talked about it in the newsroom. We said, what if just 1 year people had their voting rights taken away from them and had to watch the decisions that are made politically play out on TV like sports, no control whatsoever. Are we at that point where people need to be slapped upside the head to realize what they have before them? You had 24% turnout just for your levy alone. You had 38,297 out of a possible almost 160 voting for the levy. Now, you got a 2-to-1 split. You got a lot of support. But man, I mean, it had to have killed you trying to get through to people. Show up.
Well, I think the main thing is that you have your pros and cons. The positive aspect is to say that the likely voters in those precincts that normally wouldn't have voted for the school levy showed support, which is a positive thing from a district perspective, because those who are your likely voters who didn't show up shows you that you would account for more support collectively as a whole throughout the entire area of Toledo. I think even going with the senior citizen concept is that we looked at the early voters and once we saw what the percentage support was, which was at 67%, at that time we were almost ready to wrap up because we realized your least likely voter for school support is usually those early voters who are a majority of seniors. When we saw 67%, that statistically told us the probability of being successful was very high. At the same time, in regard to taking a look at those precincts in regards to that, I think it's going to take some collective effort as a city to energize, to make sure people got out to vote. So when you're talking about an Obama campaign, that kind of added a national synergy that created movement for individuals to get to the polls. I think we need to create that same type of movement coming into the following elections and et cetera, because people have to take advantage of that opportunity. It's your civic duty to do that.
And you had to get investment. I told you, the one piece of video I wanted to make sure I showed this morning or this afternoon when people are watching is you guys huddling up before you went out, canvassed, door to door, picked a Saturday, the weekend before the big vote, and you really wanted, you look at you guys right here, this is a real athletic mentality you're bringing to everybody, getting them fired up to go out there and spread the message.
And one of the things that I tell people is that, I go out and speak to the athletic team at the University of Toledo. Coach Campbell's been used, and others, is that the coaches I had, when you're talking about Coach Saban and Coach Pinko and Coach Amstus, who were there at the time of my administration, is that you begin to realize, like I told the students, that you're under the leadership of the mindset of Fortune 500 companies who strategically know what they're doing. I said, don't just play the game to play the game. I said, don't be institutionalized and just do because you're told. Get an understanding of why coaches set things up certain ways. Why there's a mission and vision on the wall that we have to recite each and every day. Why each individual is personally given goals in the weight room and outside the weight room. Understand how that all comes together, because when you leave the field and go into the industry, those things carry over. But if you didn't take the time to internalize it, you failed and missed out on an opportunity. And it's those things that I appreciated, being at the collegiate level, to pick up on those things, and it helped to be the athlete to be able to synergize, just as you would do with a team. TPS is a team. How do you synergize the district to have a positive morale? Because morale develops culture, and culture develop outcomes.
You talk about a business mentality. You and I were talking before we came out here today. Everybody talks about, they know Dr. Durant is going to have those shirts with the emblems on the cuffs and on the neck. You got TPS all over you. You are a walking billboard for this school district, and you wear it with a lot of pride. But there is some mentality behind what you're doing.
Yes,
that's on purpose.
This is deliberate. One of the things is about marketing and branding, and at the same time understanding that there's an image that TPS and myself leading it have to change. And so by branding myself allows me to engage in conversations that I can change the perspective of an individual as well as a cast audience. But more importantly, this is something that I did with my mentorship group. I run two of them called Young Women of Excellence and Young Men of Excellence. And what I found was I was giving students other opportunities other than gang life, but what I was beginning to realize that many individuals were branding themselves on their forearms, which is similar to my French cuff, and on their neck of a street name or a project housing in regard to who they represented as their family.
In tattoos, you're saying?
The tattoos on their arms as well as their neck. And so what I began to say in my mentorship group, started putting it on my sleeves and say, this is a new family, this is a new way of life. Let's do it much more professional and much more of a business mindset. And the kids began to garner to that because they're looking for family support, and when it's peer-to-peer, you got to provide constructive means to it.
There have been a lot of slogans over the years that I've been here at 13 ABC with TPS trying to turn the tide. And I mean, the results come in as far as grades and how the students are doing. It's discouraging at points for you as a member of the administration when those results come back. But give us an update on the transformation plan and where things are.
One of the things
this levy was a big start, yes?
The levy was a big start because what you saw was you had $13 million within a budget that supported many of the initiatives that we invested and put behind in the transformation plan that tied toward an A grade. So when you look at a report card, I mean, when you're talking about we received an A grade in special needs with our special needs students, we had an A grade of one of very few across the state to do so, that we have individual schools call calling us, and district calling us on a daily basis, trying to get an understanding of how we went about doing that. But again, it tied to the transformation plan by embedding inclusion where students were taught within their peer group classroom. The same in regard to our 20% lowest performing students, is that we took the race to the top, as well as school improvement grants, dollars that were invested into programs to help increase the value-added growth to those readers. Well, we see an A grade within that class. At the same time, our gifted students, when you're talking about early high school option, where we're taking 7th and 8th graders, busing them over to the high school environment, receiving high school credits in regard to whether it's math, a language, or an instrument or band and orchestra, is that one, not only are they getting acclimated to the high school level, but picking up credit, but also challenging those students from the 7th and 8th grade on a high school level, which we received a B grade. Like I said, we have 2 more years that we're looking to continue with that, and we're going to continue to put the message out and getting the business community, faith-based community, as well as the residential community as a whole to support that. That's a collective effort, a collective will to have a collective solution to this problem.
How important was it? And I told you I had Bob Vasquez and Brenda Hill on this show months ago, and we were talking about the possibility of getting a campaign out there to bring to people's attention on TV, through radio, through print, to bring to their attention the success stories that have come out of TPS. You guys did campaign. You put videos out there, you put commercials out there showing who has come from TPS.
Yes. You know, that's the thing, is that the concept of TPS Proud, is that the graduates who have excelled and became prominent community members, is that they're a graduate of TPS. To be proud of that, what year they graduated, what high school they graduated from, because that sets a culture and a message to students who are looking up to them. And so those are the things that we fostered into the commercial to show that TPS is producing proud graduates, but more importantly, making sure we're developing that synergy so individuals are getting out to get that message out. But one of the things that we also did was, not only do we have the commercial, but if you're a busy person such as my schedule, I don't really get to watch TV, but guess where I'll watch it? On Facebook.
Yeah.
So we took all the commercials, I put it on my Facebook page, we put it on a TPS website Facebook page, so parents who are just navigating through Facebook, hey, I'm a supporter of Dr. Ray, let me see this commercial, and now they're watching our commercials, taking advantage of social media.
We talk about this all conceptually, and what is there a real buy-in right now from the teachers?
Definitely. Yesterday we had a staff appreciation day. I mean, if you could have seen the tears in some of the teachers' eyes, as well as the administrators, as well as the bus service, the bus drivers, cafeteria crew, the entire fleet, our entire workforce, invited them over. We appreciate Cedar Creek for opening up their doors, and we fed them. We've had some words of encouragement. I mean, for many of them who have put 36 years into the district, said they've never been appreciated on that level. And we're looking to do 2 of those a year, but the one thing I teach my cabinet as well as administrators, never forget the shoes you left out of, because what you appreciated then is what is appreciated now, and what you would have appreciated is what's going to be appreciated as well. And so those are the things that bringing them together, because that develops a family-like culture, but more importantly saying that the work you do in dealing with the most challenged students is that it is appreciated. We can't maybe account for it in money, but we can account for it in appreciation.
Also re-incentivizing those students and re-engaging, the teachers rather, and re-engaging them in what they do. Last thing before we go to break, obviously part of the election, the levy, the other part of the election, bringing in a new mayor, we found out this week, Mike Collins coming into office. What was your take from that? And did you consider Mike Bell a good adversary for TPS, and what do you need out of Mike Collins?
Well, one of the main things is I took a look at each of their agendas, and whoever it was to win began to align in regard to the things that they look for in education. How does it foster into what our transformation plan is, as well as the plan of the district as a whole? And so those are the things that I prepared myself as well as the team to be able to engage in that. So more importantly, understand that we can't control at the end of the day who wins, but what we can control is their agendas aligning with ours. And so those are the things that we try to take advantage of and own, because at the end of the day, ultimately, no matter who steps in the leadership position, TPS and Toledo have to walk hand in hand, because we are a replication of each other. You can't have a strong district without a strong city. You can't have a strong city without a strong district. Those are the things that have to come together.
Was Mike Bell a positive in office for TPS?
Mike Bell was a positive. He was a youth supporter. He's a proud graduate of Woodward High School.
Right.
So he's a graduate of Woodward High School, and he showed up in our press conference and stated that not only he was TPS proud, but he was Toledo proud, and those are the same messages that I was carrying along.
Does the Collins administration need to be more involved in TPS?
I think not only on the governmental agencies, the local agencies, as well as the community, all need to collectively be just as invested into the schools, because ultimately at the end of the day, that's how you make collective impact.
Dr. Romulus Duran joining us here on the Roundtable today, a rich athletic history in your resume. We're going to talk a little bit about that when we come back here, talk some other topics. Stay with us.